Hey everyone, it's Stephanie
And the
and...
People's Champ in the building.
All right, so for those who know who the People's Champ is, welcome back. For all my new followers, this is my handsome husband, Edmund. And I love to bring him on several times this season so that he can give you his perspective on Married at First Sight, because we watch and talk trash together
Absolutely.
every Wednesday night. And it's been a minute. Most of you guys know that we moved into a new home, and so we've been juggling a lot of things, but we wanted to make sure we got you guys in. So I thought this was a great episode to bring them on and talk about the couples. Before we get started, don't forget to subscribe and click the notification bell so you could be the first to find out when I post these videos. All right, let's get into it, because it's been a while since the people have heard from the People's Champ. So
you let me out the cage. I'm sitting here like more porridge. You know, I'm like Cinderella in the basement. You gotta let me out, man.
All right, so let's. Who do you want to start with? Let me ask you that.
Vodka.
Stop it.
Let's start with a shot of vodka.
All right, so Eric and Virginia. First of all, this week's episode, I thought this week's episode was actually really good. There was a lot of content. They met with the experts. You know, they kind of future tripped on asking questions about Decision Day. This episode, to me, it was meant to meet with the experts. First of all, hello, Dr. Pepper. Dr. Pepper came in,
like cayenne pepper,
guns blazing. I loved it. She did not. She's like
4'1" of her.
Yeah, she's tiny, but she's like, listen, I ain't been here all season, but I'm about to come with the boom. She came in and she did not hold back. Pastor Cal, I thought, did great. He held people very accountable. I love seeing the two of them come in. They kind of prompted people with, let's talk about some of the stuff you're not talking about. Let's get into the questions that you need to ask to really see where these relationships are going. For me, the entire episode was filled with questions that were never really asked or answered. Like, the experts did a great job about saying, here's what you should ask. Let's dive deeper into this. Here's what's not working. Go back to your partner and say XYZ. And everybody danced around it. I almost wish they would have mediated that conversation between the two of them so they could have said, you didn't get to the real, crux of this whole thing. You're kind of dancing around it because it's uncomfortable. So I feel like this whole episode, the couples never really got to it as clearly as the experts made them get to it. So Eric and Virginia, what do you think about them?
Well, just piggybacking on what you said, I think just a rule of thumb is the best way out is through. I think a lot of people try to skirt around, and this is for the whole show. Like, people say what they feel, but they don't get through it. And a lot of the times it's fear, especially in this experiment. They fear that they're going to be rejected. They're going to, lose their husband or lose their wife. And I get that, but you're never going to grow deeper if you don't go through the tough stuff, and then you'll get like us and we don't even care. We just yeah, this is how I feel, and it's like, well, take out the trash. Like, it's, what I'm saying?
You got to go through it so that you can have those conversations easily. So what do you think about Eric and Virginia?
I think we talked about it. I think the ultimatums are dangerous. I think especially, when you're dealing with somebody that's come from a divorce. I'm a product of divorce, and leaving that person it's a fearful thing. So I don't think Eric realizes when he threatens to leave so easily, it's like anything she does, he can leave. And she's already experienced that in the worst way with her parents. And so it doesn't create a solid foundation. And then I think Eric is delusional a little bit when he keeps saying that, oh, it's great. It's not great. Yeah. Like, you're 1 foot in, 1 foot out, and you could leave in a minute. How is it great? Yeah. And I do like the fact that he kind of, the dog thing is kind of like, inheriting somebody with a child. You don't just come in and be stepdad and let me pull my belt out. Like, what? Bro, we don't even know your name, bro. We don't know your middle name. You talking about laying down the law. Yeah. I think that's just, but I don't think they got through it in the conversation. No. It's not a kitchen stand-up conversation. This is like serious sit down on the couch, holding your hand, looking at you, like literally talking about abandonment issues and ultimatums and leaving. And I don't think she really drove that home. And how do you feel about the boundary being set? Like, we have a boundary. We can't use that. Early on, let's just say this, we weren't perfect. We're not the perfect couple. Not. But, I didn't know how to do any, my knee jerk was to run. That's why it took us long to get married. We get close and I want to, So when we first got married, I'm
There
saying
were rules
stuff
of engagement.
that we started to make laws. Like, you cannot say, oh, I'm going to be gone. Oh, I'm checking out, and ultimatums. Nah. So you have to make rules so that you know how to have conversation
Absolutely.
that doesn't make your spouse feel like you can leave them at any time. Howsoever, that is a word, Google it. Howsoever, the whole staying out thing with Virginia, aka Peniella Vaca. How do you feel about that part of it, the friend thing?
So, listen, I've already touched on Virginia with the whole friend thing. I think in that way she lacks maturity. We've touched on that these last few weeks. I was like such a big Eric fan at the beginning. You guys know every time I said Eric, I said I loved Eric. Eric has a lot of issues. And it's not that he's a bad guy. I just don't necessarily think that the two of them will work. Man. I don't think they'll work long term because they're just two different. Foundationally, they're not matched properly. And him triggering her abandonment issues, not really listening to her. He talks at her, doesn't really talk to her. Yeah. In some ways, she's more mature than he is.
Yeah, especially when she put those glasses on.
In some ways, she's more mature than he is, and he doesn't really listen to her. So it's always like, I've done this before, I've been here before, and so that leaves little room to be taught. And on the flip side, Virginia, one of the issues that was brought up last night was her excessive drinking, and her first thing was defensive. Excuse me, when he said, hey, like some of our conversations happen on the other side of alcohol, and it's not great. Some of our worst conversations, her first thing is, well, those would have happened with or without alcohol. To me, that's not how that should be taken. If somebody is bringing up your drinking, then chances are there's something to concern yourself about with that. And these are like, they have a history of, a short history, but a history nonetheless of like dancing around issues that are deeper because they want to stay in this like pink cloud that's like, we're doing so great. And I can tell that she's aware that they're not doing so great, but Eric is sticking to that script. Like, we're doing so great except for these. Like, I think she even said, that we're really good with like the small things. It's the big stuff that we can't talk about. That's the stuff you need to talk about. So Eric and Virginia, they didn't get to the real issue. They really, really didn't. They didn't convey what they talked about with the experts well enough. And I don't expect them to like convey it the way that the experts did, but they kind of, once again, shied away from it because, I don't want to get into an argument. So
especially with the part about the pregnancy part, like the kids, his thing was, if you don't want to have kids, which is a very valid
could be a deal
thing.
breaker.
If it's not a desire. Now, medically, that's a whole nother conversation. And they went down that lane and never came back to the real thing, right, which it didn't have anything to do with if you can't have kids, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, that was a concern that she had. But it was just like, I don't know if I even want them, period. Not just from the medical reasons. And I don't think she really conveyed that to him because he's thinking, what if you can't? So I think they're still not on the same page. And I think it really just becomes how she deals with things. If you notice, if you really take a look at it, she actually checks out. She defends first, and then she abandons the situation. She'll either walk away, or she'll mostly check out, or she'll just kind of not go through it. And that's really a pattern that she's experienced, with her family. So I think the defensiveness is something that needs to be addressed because she was really defensive with the dog. She was really defensive with her friends. She's really defensive with the drinking. And it doesn't allow for listening, which over time, they might make it past the 8 weeks, but over time, if that doesn't get course corrected, it's not going to work, especially with him being a pilot and coming in and you can't make plans with your husband and cancel your friend. I just looked at, I was like, man, whatever.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. Well, here's the thing I would say with Eric and Virginia, they both have to really understand where each other's coming from because Virginia has her history, right? She has her issues. She has her abandonment. She has, her triggers with divorce. And Eric has his background. He's been cheated on in every single relationship. His previous marriage did not work out. So one of the best things that you can do as a couple is understand where each other is coming from, because it will give you, and really like learn, not just say, oh, I know their history, but really listen to what they're saying, because what they're saying will give you the tools to respond in a way that will be more effective. Because when she's saying that she's scared to have children and she's scared to be a mom because she doesn't want to screw them up, that's so significant. And saying that's a deal breaker, I'm out, like that's not going to help. She's very defensive. She is. But if he would hear, like, besides the drinking, which let's get to even that, like what's behind the excessive drinking where you're blacking out still, like let's talk about the stuff that is connected to that so that we can hear each other, because we both come into a marriage grown, living our own lives, doing our own things, having this very love it or leave it attitude, because guess what? Friends and family, they love it. They don't leave it. Well, this is now a person who can leave it. And so in your relationships, if you're kind of struggling, I would say from Eric and Virginia, and really all of them, like learn to listen to what's really behind what's being said so that you can have a little more patience and like grace for your spouse so that you can respond better. Because whether they're right or wrong, if they're giving you this response, then pointing a finger or pushing it, that's going to make me more defensive. That's not going to change whether I'm defensive or not. It's just going to make me, okay, defensive works for me. It's worked for me this whole time. So let me continue to do that. So that's what I would say about Eric and Virginia. Next up, we have Haley and Jacob.
Okay.
Haley and Jacob, what do you think?
Oh, for sure.
I could tell you didn't remember. You're like,
yeah.
Okay. Oh.
For sure.
No,
that's not for sure. For sure is, man,
Ryan.
Jesus.
Haley and Jacob.
Steak and potatoes.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Steak and onions, really.
Yeah.
All right. All
what do
right.
you think about them?
Voltron. Let's see. Man, I think he's an eclectic person. I think it's I think they're going to try to force to make it work, but I just don't see them. I think he needs somebody that has a unique. It reminds me of, like, you know how Bennett from the last season?
Yes.
Like it was Amelia, right?
Bennett and Amelia, yep.
They were perfect, but if they were matched with anybody else, it would not have worked. Mm-mm. But I think both of them are looking. I think they really want it, and everybody has their own, baggage and things that they have to deal with. But there's women out there that loves the 80s. There's women out there that can deal with his 80s. It might be good if he goes with somebody who's at least older, like there wasn't was even born in the 80s. I don't even think she was she even born in the 80s or maybe late 80s?
She's 28. No, she wasn't. Mm-mm.
So that's like, you marrying Ryan Isley. It's like it's a whole nother, well, that's a different story. Brother Smooth. But bottom line is it's a whole nother component. And I just really don't have much to say, honestly.
I can tell you're struggling. Haley and Jacob, they just... every week I say I don't think they're matched well. Listen, Jacob is a nice guy, because I keep seeing people say he's a nice guy, and
I think he is
nice. He's nice. I don't think he's right for her. There is a disconnect there. Part of it is that she has disconnected. Okay, she's just decided for whatever reason that this is not going to work. But I think that, first of all, I did think that they had progress in last night's episode, because they were able to almost complete a conversation. Did they dig in super deep? No. But they got deeper than before when he said, because she asked him about, what have you been doing for the 10 years? And if you watched, you saw them flash back to like a prior episode, and he was like, dating. And I was thinking, my God, like that, I would be disconnected from somebody like that too. If I'm here with you, cameras are up, 12 hours a day, we're trying to have a conversation, this is all that you say. Like, there's not much going on there. Haley has her own bag of issues too, but I liked seeing them have a conversation that came to full completion, and they understood each other, and it didn't end up explosive. Like, she talked about being really controlled in a past relationship, and so she's really defensive in a way of, I will not be controlled. Like, we've watched a long season so far, and it feels like the whole season, and this is the first time we've heard anything about that. I didn't know anything about her like that. Him even touching on, listen, my friends were getting married and having children. So what he's saying is, I was lonely. I was realizing, listen, my life has to progress, and now it became a priority to me to really find someone. And I was dating and running into dead ends, like really getting into a conversation. They finally did that last night. Do I have hope for them? No. But you thought I was going to say yes? No.
No,
I don't.
I'm just.
It was nice to see something other than bickering and at most, I don't know that they'll come out with a friendship, to be honest. Because I don't think they would really be friends in real life.
I mean, I do have a question, though. And this is for you and then for the people out here in the world. I want to know in the comments below if you feel like there was some poor pickle play that caused it. Because after Vegas and they got it in, what happened?
Well, I think
did you put it down or did it put itself down?
Oh,
like what?
God.
I mean, I'm just saying, you would think you would at least elongate the situation. But it may not have been him. It could have been a Sahara situation. So we don't know what is going on. But I feel like there should have been...
He's going back on timeout, y'all.
So,
yeah, no, I do think that was, because listen, if your world is
put
rocked...
me on timeout.
If your
people
world
want to know.
If your world is rocked, and that's a clean version of what we're talking about. I think that you would be more responsive to a person. So I think that the fact that the timing of that situation occurred.
I'm just saying.
And it was like after that immediate shutdown, probably has something to do with that.
Wasn't no stuffing knocked out of that Egg McMuffin.
Okay.
Is that too old?
That is so old.
Damn, showing my age. I got great beards. I can say that. I can say stuffing in Egg McMuffin. Y'all had never heard that before? Whatever. That's because y'all young.
Well, that's Haley and Jacob. But I will go to your guy for sure. For sure.
Who that? Oh, for sure?
You know who for sure is.
Yeah, for sure.
Brian and Clara.
Oh, man, that boy getting a life treatment, ain't he?
Brian's living in a fantasy. I've been telling you guys that he does not present authentically. For him to say last week, and I forgot to touch on that, 99%, he's a 99% perfect husband, essentially.
Better
and
than everybody married at first sight.
10 out of 10. And she's even lying with him. It's like they got in a huddle and they were like, 1, 2, 3, lies. And then they went and they met with the experts. And it's great for sure. Hello, Clara. You were just screaming about hitting the finish line for him every single night, the night before, the episode before, and you were talking about how frustrated you were, but you get in front of the experts and you don't really touch on any of them.
Whose fault is that, though?
That is her fault. I mean, I said that was her fault. It's her fault.
I can't blame him. I mean,
But that's why I'm saying, listen. I mean, it's kind of, but they both have to take ownership. It's
I'm saying that. I'm saying that jokingly. That's wrong. I mean, it's. I thought it was a mutual thing at first.
I knew it was
before she dropped the bomb. I thought it was like, okay, well they playing around. There ain't nothing wrong with that.
I knew. I knew it wasn't.
If they out there,
I knew because she's too frustrated, which means she's giving, hoping to receive. And it's not working out in her favor. But the way they present it, and I'm so glad, that's what I'm saying. The experts hit it out the park this week with saying, that's not what I heard. Let's talk about these other things that have, and they started off positively, but let's talk about these other things that have been plaguing your relationship because we know it exists.
Who was that said that they thought was wondering if he was a virgin? Wasn't that in
Dr. Viviana had brought that up.
Yeah, if it doesn't seem like it's been, it may not have been a lot, even if it has been. But I know he's come from a religious background. But usually those are
Stop.
I'm just saying,
I don't get Ryan, and I'm starting to get really annoyed. Nothing is like it's too. I want to talk about scripted. It's too scripted with him. You don't know. It's like Clara even said he's dated people from months to years and have never had sex or have never said I love you. Like, what is it? Have you or have you not? Are you virgin or are you not? Do you plan on doing this or not? Clearly you're not afraid of some sexual activity. So what is it? Like, what's supposed to be happening here?
Well, just I would say from a male's point of view, there's two different ways that we are physical typically. It's women too, but I can only speak from a male standpoint. There's sex and then there's intimacy. Right? One can be really good at one and really suck at the other. And or a combination of both, or be afraid of both. Intimacy requires a level of vulnerability, a level of transparency, and all that. He struggles with that even outside of the bedroom. So that's why he hasn't said I love you, because it allows him to be open and be hurt.
Sure.
And so he doesn't want to be he has to be for sure, right? He has to be 100, but he's not. So that's going to be a tough nut to crack. I'm here all night, folks.
I can't.
Stamp your tickets if you're coming back in.
I can't. Oh my Yeah, this is sans alcohol, by the way. Okay, not a drink inside.
Look. I forgot what I was saying.
Do you think they're gonna make it? Do you see long term for them?
I don't think he's gonna say no. I think he's gonna stick with it. But
Yeah.
I think they need therapy. I think with therapy they can do it. They have to find out what this whole lack of intimacy thing and this fear of sex and this fear of love. It's just not gonna be time.
Yeah.
People say time heals all wounds. No, it doesn't.
No.
There are people that go to the grave still hating their situation with their mother, their father, whatever. Whatever's going on, he needs to have that breakthrough. But he's got to have the right therapist that's going to push him and not let him squeal out the room and say, well, maybe I'll have that conversation. You didn't have the conversation. Not the way it needed to be had.
Oh, the religion thing. He really didn't.
And he didn't even think to have these conversations himself. Like, what type of leader of the house are you?
Yeah.
And I mean, if you ever watch this, my bad, but brother, like this is what it means to provide. It's not just money. Is you need to provide a safe space and a comfortable space for your wife to actually feel comfortable to have conversations and lead her through that conversation. And it's kind of weird because you're religious, and this is not. I'm not making this up. This is all in scripture. Like this is your role of being a husband. It's an agricultural word. You got to help her grow and give her space to be fertile and to really grow and nourish. And it doesn't seem that way. It's just, it's about me. It's about when I'm ready. Well, what about her feelings? I think Dr. Pepper said, well, have you thought about how it makes her feel? No, I haven't.
Well, those two were a great example of how that conversation did not matriculate in a way that could have been effective for them. If spirituality and raising your children a certain way is important for you, now is the time to talk about it. And when Clara was like, oh, we'll save that for a different time, or we'll cross that bridge when we get to it.
Just get to it.
There's some, like I say every week, there are like some non-negotiables that you need to have. I like to say like 5, but some of them could be politics, religion, children. Those things usually, if you're not on the same page about, are going to be problematic. And so that would have been the time. Hello, the assignment is to go back to your spouse and talk about the things that you haven't been talking about that are difficult, that could weigh in one way or another on decision day. He didn't really harp on that. He could have even said, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it, but I just want you to know that's really important for me to raise my kids in the church, or whatever the case may be. And then her, on the flip side, I know that bringing up sex a lot pushes you further away, but I really respect you.
Well, push him.
Well, here's my thing though. At girls' night last week, she was not speaking like she respected that boundary. Be honest and say, I am frustrated. I feel rejected. Like, what does this mean, for you regarding me? Is this a lack of commitment? Because that's what I would be thinking. Okay, he's probably trying not to have sex because he doesn't want to stick around, so he doesn't want to take it too far. Like, these are the things that they needed to be talking about. But they got together and they didn't even... maybe it's because the cameras were on, but they didn't have a real conversation with each other too. It was just very like, sure. And it was like, yeah, I respect you. And then end scene, that was it. So that's why I can't tell between them, because they say they have great chemistry, but do they?
No, I don't see it.
I don't either.
And I think at the end of the day, from the expert side, I think I wonder if people like lie to get on the show or something, because like if it's 100, like, look, I need a Christian person, blah, 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 period. And maybe they have to be a little bit more open to get selected. Because I just think about some of my friends that are like Muslim. If you're not Muslim, they would be done the first day.
We're not matched.
You know what I'm saying? If you're not going to the mosque, we're out of here.
Yeah.
Like, some people are more open, but if you're not, you need to get to it now and get it over with.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah. All right. Next we have Brianna and Vinnie. How do you think they did this week?
Man.
They had a pretty interesting episode
Tiptoe
this week.
Vinnie.
Yeah.
Yeah, he tiptoe Vinnie. I love Vinnie though. Vinnie's my guy.
Yeah,
man.
I like
but
Vinnie too.
He just doesn't know. He hasn't seen a blueprint, and this is something that a lot of men, we take divorce and do things different ways, and he wants to be so perfect. And I can see the brother's really trying. I really like him, but he's trying so hard that he's put himself last, and that's going to cause him to blow up eventually. Like he has to start speaking up and just being okay to be vulnerable and be real about how he feels and what he doesn't like and what he likes. He's afraid that he'll lose her, and I think that also has to get worked on. And he's getting better, but I think it's early on. But I really think they're going to last. I think they'll stick it out. I really enjoy watching them, to be honest. But they're like the bright spot of the show for me.
They are. Vinnie, I felt bad for Vinnie yesterday because he was really struggling. beyond his normal struggle, which is not knowing what to say or holding it in. But Vinnie has not seen a relationship. Vinnie has made up this, and he has romanticized what he wants it to be, and anything that he feels that may ruin it, he doesn't do. So you saw him really struggling, not because, okay, I'm going to sit here and be upset and I'm not going to say anything. It's like, things are going well and I don't want to jeopardize this, because in his mind, this is how it looks. And if you grew up in like a 2-parent home, then you know it looks a bunch of ways. And you know, like, I mean, I always tell this story to, like, when I'm talking to friends. Me and my mom were having lunch years ago, and we sat next to this older couple, and I mean, they had to be like in their 80s. And I don't know what the husband said to the wife, but the wife was like annoyed, and she was like, "Don't speak to me for the rest of lunch." And you know what? He didn't speak to her for the rest of lunch. And I was just like, oh my God. I was like in my 20s. I was like, oh my God. And then at the end of lunch, they got up. The husband got her tray. He pulled out her chair. He held her hand, opened the door. They walked out. That would have ruined a young couple. That would have ruined it. But they have, think about it. If they're in their 80s, they've been in the game a minute. And you know that it looks so many different ways that you're not scared to say, don't speak to me, please. Like, ignore me. I want you to ignore me. I'm sick of talking to you right now. It doesn't end the marriage. Sometimes you just need that. Give me Sunday football. I don't bother him during football.
Not at all.
When he gets upset about the Lions, your girl gets out the way. I don't try to, but at the beginning when we first got married, I tried to console and be there.
Okay. No, it's not like, okay. It's not.
I'm like, I'll be upstairs.
Yeah.
Because come on, you learn. So like Vinnie, he will learn as he learns to communicate and not stifle himself. And as he learns to be sure in the foundation of the relationship, because he's scared now. It's new, right? I don't want to do anything to make her upset. When you are solid with your spouse, you know damn well they're not going anywhere. Not to say you could do whatever, but like one little tiff is not going to end the marriage. It's all new. It's why Brianna felt so bad that she was perceived rude, because like she doesn't want to say anything, because she doesn't want to jeopardize the relationship, because it's all new. Once they build that solid foundation, they'll be fine.
Yeah. I think one thing that like new couples can do, or even when dating, is like telling people your intentions, especially when you get into it. It's like, look, my intention is never to hurt you, never to leave. And I had to say this like early on to let her know, like, we won't, we're never going to get into a point where I'm leaving the house, I'm leaving it, I'm out the door. It's nothing like that. It's just like, okay, I'm upset, I need a minute or whatever. And once you know that person's there and there for you, then you can have little questions here and there. You can say how you feel, but ultimatums and I'm out, that stuff doesn't help build that. And not saying how you feel doesn't help build that either, because then that person's always wondering what you're doing. It's like when I used to ask her a long time ago, what's wrong? Nothing.
So listen.
What's wrong? Nothing.
I used to be so quiet because
I know
wanted
a
to
lot of y'all
avoid...
guilty of it too.
Yeah,
man.
we do it.
Nothing.
But I used to want to avoid an argument because I didn't want to argue. And I've learned that being honest and saying what you need to say is so much easier than staying quiet and avoiding that, because the avoiding is even worse.
My life. I don't know what's going to happen when I go to sleep. It's like nothing. Just go to sleep. What? What do you mean?
Good night.
Yeah. That's okay. You sitting there turning and stuff.
Stop it. Good night.
I'm going to light his toes on fire when you go to sleep.
Oh my gosh.
But I'm just saying, it's like once you get through the conversations, you're good. Now, what about that budget, though?
You took it out of my mouth. I was going to ask you about that. Listen, I think Vinnie, first of all, they have different perspectives of a budget, different ways that they do things. But I also think Brianna has more money than him. She's an engineer. She's single. She doesn't have kids. She lives in Atlanta, which is like $1,000 millionaire lives out there. It's not very expensive, so you can really ball out. And I think that she doesn't have to think about money like he does, who is starting a new business and who may not have the resources that she has. First of all, their financial perspective is different because he is thinking differently. But I also think not having access to resources as readily as she does right now plays into how he's responding, and she's not doing the same.
I got a total different approach to that. Vinny's not being honest.
Okay.
That's the problem. Here's the problem. she wants to be courted and wants to have fun and go out with her new husband because they didn't do that.
Right.
Makes total sense. That's not Vinny's problem. She keeps focusing on the line item of entertainment. Vinny's problem is all the other stuff.
Right.
The self-care or and I'm not saying
the clothes.
The clothes.
Yeah.
He's afraid to say that, but it's because he knows her conversation. If you think about it, the compromise for the sleep was go to bed earlier. Like, it was
no compromise.
It was like your mom talking. It's like, who am I talking to, my wife or my mom? And it was more of a judgment. Like, you need to get up earlier is kind of what. But here's the thing: when you're a left brain person, an engineer, it's like step by step. These steps are right because these are the right steps. So if you wake up at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, there's millionaires that wake up at 10 o'clock a.m. But they get stuff done, and it doesn't matter that he sleeps if he's tired, but he's not standing up for himself enough, and he's not being honest with her about what he really feels and what he really has issues with, because he's afraid that she might leave or might take it a certain way, or he wants to avoid conflict.
I also feel like money, access to resources play a role because he is a very proud, very manly man. And he, it's going to be hard to battle a woman who, A, you just met, and B, who has significantly more resources than you, which is what I think is the case here. I don't know. So it's like, if you say, you got to be careful with that. If you say you can't spend, the first thing is going to be like, my money?
No. But see,
what?
They got to have a conversation before that.
Right.
They need to have a conversation of, if he's in that situation, right? Because I know this is baby Oprah right here. She going to be making millions, and I'm going to be sitting out in the outhouse like Stedman.
Stop it.
And Edmund Stedman. That's me. Even though
I'll get you a nice house.
Right now we good. But when that happens, we already had a foundation that increase of money doesn't make you more powerful than me, or vice versa. Money doesn't create the powerful. Now, I make what I make, which is good. She makes what she makes, which is good. And we buy things and we travel. We do a lot of good stuff, but we don't let the money make us. The money is made by us, so therefore it doesn't dictate. Because what if she loses her job, which has happened? What if I lose a contract?
Right.
That has happened.
Right.
So what happens? We flip flop. Who's no?
Yeah, that's a good rule to have. Like, money doesn't dictate respect, but they don't have that history yet.
Yeah,
so
but not having money
fresh.
and not doing anything about it. Now that you lose respect when you just like, oh, I'm good, I'm gonna just mooch.
Yeah.
But I think he needs to ask her a question. A good question for him to ask would be, hey, how do you feel about money? Like, how do you feel about you making your own money, etc.? How do you feel about gender roles? How do you feel about how much I make versus what you make? And that could be done off camera. But that subconsciously, money is people say people get divorced because of money. It's not the money. It's the emotions around money and what money means to one person versus the other without getting on the same page. Because money brings power, and power can bring change, good or bad.
And it depends how you saw money in your household too, and how that was played between your parents or your parent. And so sometimes you mirror or you do the opposite. Another thing I thought was interesting with them, and it's a little tidbit because they didn't go too deep, but the baby thing, how she was afraid to have baby. This is the first season where I've really heard the women kind of verbalize that. She was talking about her blood pressure that is already high, and she looks like she's in shape. I think she's a vegetarian, so that's a concern for her.
I feel bad for
and that's
her
a real
that.
concern because when you're carrying a child, your body is not your own. Things are not, you can't control things, and preeclampsia, which is high blood pressure when you're pregnant, can cause some very fatal things if it gets out of control. So I think that they really need to continue that dialogue because he wants kids immediately. She's like, no, not yet. And then she has this other thing going on that is a significant thing to discuss. So
yeah, that's scary. I mean, just not harping too much on it, but we had a slight little scare. Remember Valentine's Day? When you were pregnant, and it was just, we were afraid. We were waiting on some news from the doctor, and it was, as a husband, we don't go through it all. We just have to watch, and we're afraid of what could happen, what might happen. And then as the woman, I can't even imagine what you all go through. And so I know that's going to be something, but I think this is time for Vinny to really lean in and really support her and really be very understanding, because he cannot imagine what that feels like, because she's been knowing that probably since puberty or you know, maybe as a young adult. And so I think that, you know, his response was, well, you know, the older you get. I get that, and she gets that. However, that's not really what she really needs to hear right now. A hug, a really good, you know, I'm there with you, we'll work this thing out. However, that's a very tender moment. And I think he's gonna have to get a little bit more sensitive around that topic and a little bit more understanding. Not that he wasn't, but I think it's just gonna have to be a little bit more than what it was.
A little deeper.
Yeah.
All right, last and certainly least.
Is this the last one?
This is the last one.
Man.
Kristen Page.
Cal, my man.
I love Pastor Cal.
I need some glasses.
Pastor Cal, when he starts taking them glasses on and off, you know, I'm telling you, it's curse words. He can't say it because he's your pastor. But every time the glasses come off, there's
some swearing.
It's a bleep, bleep, asterisk. You guys have heard me every week rant on Kristen Page, so I'm just gonna be real quick. I'm gonna do my best anyway. Page, girl, what's really frustrating me with her is that she has not found herself. She has not risen above. She has not taken control of the situation. Situation has happened to her and she lets it happen. Her statement in saying yesterday that he let his marriage go. Girl, what marriage?
She said, I can't see how.
What marriage? It was never a marriage. And this is beyond like one of the things that you should focus on. Not letting the marriage. He should let that. You should want him to have let that go. There's so many offenses that he's done, and you're still, in a way, waiting like a kicked dog, just waiting for another. And that's what bothers me about her. She hasn't gotten it yet. She hasn't gotten it yet to where she really self-reflected enough to know, I am so much better than this, and this does not, like this act, like 3 or 4 episodes ago, this doesn't serve me. That was crap. Like I really was hoping, but she doesn't act like this doesn't serve her. And that really bothers me for her, because how you do some things is how you do all things. So guaranteed that's showing up in other places. Chris is a dog. Like I've been calling him a clown. He's a dog, but for those who likes dogs, pick an animal you don't like, and he's that. Because he got so almost like dehumanizing last night to me. I already knew he wasn't going to be attracted to her. It always alluded that he wasn't attracted to her face.
Oh my God, the way he said that.
He was such a pig about it. And I already knew he was attracted to her body. If you recall, if you've been watching the season, the first episode, second episode reviews, I talked about, sexualizing the Black body, especially dark-skinned women. And I talked about that in the first couple of reviews and how he was so hypersexual with her body, but really didn't think of her as a trophy. So like the fact that he said that and was kind of like, there's just no accountability, and just like, y'all could have done better, and all the women in Atlanta, and you look like a hamster, but all the women in Atlanta, and you couldn't have done better for me. It's like, I'm so grossed out by him. I'm done. I have nothing more to say.
I see. You just checked out, huh?
Yeah. He's got too much of my time.
I don't even know where to start, but I will start off with what you said about Paige. Because I brought it up to her. As soon as she said it, he was like, what are you going to ask on decision day? You're going to ask why you let the thing go. It's still, why are you like sucking up to this dude? Like, everybody's, but here's the thing. We all are it's kind of like what I feel like is we're all, community, the world, everybody watching this is reacting to Paige's symptoms, not the true problem. I feel like she says she has 2 therapists. I feel like that's an issue. And if you do, you might want to get a different one or go through something experiential. Maybe she needs a deep dive, 3-day, kumbaya, Tony Robbins. I don't know what, but something has to create a transformation, because she has not transformed into a different being. And I think that's what she needs, because the statements are still, the underlying issue is still there. Yeah. Because of what she's saying every so now. Surface level, she knows what to say. She says it. She gets hype about it. She says it to her girls, but not to him. And the whole car thing, I think, was just trash. Oh, you could have come with me. I mean, who in their right mind wants to do that? It was just
disrespectful.
And it's like, oh, for my child, man, it's just so erratic behavior, and it's just not husband material. And Pastor Cal pointed it out. You need to get some help.
Yeah.
If you really want this thing. But I'll just say this: my wishes for Paige and anyone like Paige, because she was saying, "Why me? Why did this happen to me?" And I think that's a question a lot of people ask themselves.
Yeah.
Bottom line is, I really believe that every day, every hour, you should turn your pain into power. And I think what that means is not just a cliche. It doesn't just rhyme and sound good. What I mean is that the pain that she's going through has to help her to find a different way and find a different path and break through that. But also, I think that she was being used to show a lot of other people in the world that are experiencing that to come out of that on the other side. And I think if she stands as a champion for those individuals and comes out on the other side, it could show people and help a lot of people break through that. So she has to kind of use her pain and her situation to empower herself and other people. So I think that is the challenge that she was, kind of called on to do. And I think she just has to rise to that. And hopefully that happens, whether it's at decision day or afterwards.
Yeah. And I just think that, it's unfortunate for Paige. But we watch these shows and a lot of times we're pointing the finger, and I always say we can learn from this, right? We can always learn from things we watch, and I often say it's edutainment. Unfortunately for Paige, we had to learn from her, but the irony is there's a lot of Paiges laughing at Paige right now. So if anything, it's holding a mirror to you, and a lot of times you're triggered by what you see and realize, oh God, I have some of those characteristics, or I'm going through some of those same things. So of course we wish her the best. And we're going to head out, y'all. It's late. Our babies sleep.
Yeah.
And what do you think? What did you think about coming back?
Oh, I loved it. Thanks for having me on, champ. I mean,
right.
you're the real people's champ. I'm
Stop
just a
it.
champ, close to the champ. I'm just trying to get on my little fame. I'm glad to be on. I'm glad to hopefully we provided some entertainment for you all. Hopefully you all like and comment and share this if it's impactful and
all right,
that
guys.
good stuff.
Don't forget to subscribe, and we'll see you next week. Everyone have a great weekend.
Champ out.